welcome to the December Practitioners Maturity Model for Microsoft 365 Practitioners call. We're going to talk about sort of the impact of Ignite 2024 on the maturity model last month, but we realized we had more info to synthesize, so we pushed it off to this month. And hopefully you're taking a little time off from your holiday shopping or schmoozing or parties or whatever, just to join us and talk this through. We don't have a specific guest star today. We have the whole team. I think maybe we're not all here yet, but we will be. And you notice that we have a core team now of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, which is awesome. We've got some newer members. They are sort of listed in order of joining. So what's our agenda for today? We're going to give an overview of the maturity model in case any of you have not seen sort of what it is and how it's made up. We'll do a friendly wave and a picture time together, assuming that Simon Doy is here because he's the only one who seems to be able to figure. Yeah, you're the only one who seems to be able to figure out how that works. We'll talk about how you can contribute to the model. There are lots of different ways that you can interact with it and or help with it or comment on it or help us out, whatever. And then we'll jump into sort of the main event, talking about what impact Ignite 2024 has on the maturity model. If you're new to this, there's a monthly recurring calendar series, which you can add to your calendar. That's that first link. And then we try also to keep these meetings posted via Meetup. I'll be honest, I don't know if I did this one, but that's another way you can join. Sharon, you want to take it away? Or Simon? Just looking to see who's here.
Yeah, I can do this one. No, Sharon, you haven't said anything for a while. You have a go.
I don't know. You're so rehearsed at this. But go ahead, Simon.
Okay, I'll do it. So this is our standard slide. We have a purpose, which is listed on the left, which is actually really around helping organizations improve themselves, benchmark themselves against something that's vaguely objective and rigorous, and then find a way to move things forward to get down a predictable timeline towards better. It also means that organizations can talk to each other or talk internally with a common language set. So there's a bunch of stuff there around our purpose. And then on the right, we have our set of artifacts. The purple ones are the published competencies. That forms the backbone of the maturity model. These are business competencies, not technology competencies. We've got 2 competencies which are as yet incomplete: data analytics and security. And we're still looking for assistance with actually building those because we don't have all the skills we need within the core team. And then there are some adjunct artifacts, so some tools for things like how to run a workshop, more on that later, how to run a maturity model assessment workshop, and some supporting articles about some principles of how to do things, and also some more specific articles on how to elevate individual competencies. We're of late also introducing the orange set. These are practical scenarios where we take one very specific business need and try and use the maturity model to explain how to, say, just get better at collaborating with Microsoft Teams, how to communicate with our customers, or any number of possible individual scenarios which will draw on the whole set of the competencies. I think there's a third practical scenario that's published, but not on this list, Mark. We need to check that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that we have also got maturity model for 365 and Teams development.
That's right, we do. And Michael Blumenthal is also working on a new pull request to split the servicing Microsoft 365 practical scenario into 2 pieces, because he felt like there was more to talk about there. So keep your eye on this chart and we will keep it updated.
Marvelous. Next. Okay. So this is the basis of the maturity model. It's built on this this 5-level piece, where level 100, the initial level, is where you're just basically rubbish at a bunch of things. And then there's some descriptions there about it being ad hoc and reactive and chaotic and not very predictable. And then as we move up, we go through the try hard level, level 200, where we recognize there's a problem or a set of problems, and we start to introduce processes to deal with those problems. By level 300, that level 200 stuff has paid off, and we've got a lot of described processes that should fix the problem. It's documented, it's policy driven, we've put tools in place to manage it, and life is pretty good. This is the right place for most organizations to be for pretty much everything, or better. And so better looks like level 400, where we're starting to use active feedback loops and surveying and audit and data and intelligent approaches to be able to make sure that we've taken our well-structured business processes and tools and worked out what way to make them better. And then by the time we get to 500, which is super rare, we've managed to find ways to optimize our business processes or our business capabilities, not only optimize them, but have systems in place that keep optimizing them as markets and needs and people and technology changes. So that's the model. Most organizations should be at level 300 or above. Some will be hitting 400 in pockets. Very occasional companies will have a little bit of 500 at some places in their organization, but there certainly won't be 500 everywhere. We think that's a practical impossibility. And some even good organizations will have pockets of level 100 and 200, especially where they've stood up new teams or introducing new business practices or new technologies or products. So, so we expect it to be a heterogeneous organization, but striving to move up the curve.
I think I don't think you mentioned it, but it's also important that not every organization will choose to be at a higher level for everything. It's up to you to decide, where do you feel like you have issues and where should you push to raise your maturity level.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where Simon Doy is going to do his magic.
I will try and do my magic. I'm just selecting a scene. The options. We'll go through the amphitheater.
It's always a bit of a drum roll when you're choosing what you're going to use.
Yeah. So I've applied it to everybody. I think I have to stop. I'm going to steal the.
Yeah,
sharing,
please do.
And hopefully, then that'll allow us to do rid of that and get rid of that. And
so everybody who wants to, please come off of invisible mode.
Please switch your camera on.
Yeah.
Yes. Join us.
We've got 40 some people here, and I certainly don't see 40 some people there yet. But those of you who chose to join us, excellent.
We'll wait a little bit longer.
Give it a couple more seconds. Look at the smiling faces, though, and the building's getting bigger. The amphitheater is moving out.
More people are coming to join us.
Excellent.
I think they think it's a fish concert or something.
Right, should we go from that then? That's everyone, I think, is who's going to. Right, just wave. And thank you very much for joining us for our last session of 2024.
Yeah, hard to believe it'll be 2025 next week or soon, whatever.
A couple of weeks, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Right, thank you very much. All right, that's done. I'll hand it back to you.
Let's see if I can get back in the saddle here. Oh, come on, teams, do the thing. Do the thing. Oh, there we go. Resume. There we go. Do you see the picture, PNP picture time slide? Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Simon D, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So we'd love you to get involved. Please, it'd be great to hear what's working, what's not working. If you've got a case study, if you've got some tips and tricks, you can get involved. Maybe do a session for us here. There's some links here on how to contribute. So we use GitHub to have conversations. If there's something which you want to change or amend, it's a community effort. Then use GitHub to do that. And if you want a hand with that, please reach out to us. We can help you. There's links to all the recordings and then the session onto how to run a maturity model for M365. But we want this to be a safe space. We want you to feel comfortable and get involved and share those success stories and anecdotes. So please feel free to do that and just be mindful of how you're speaking so that people feel safe to share. All right, next slide.
We're at the end of 2024. This was our schedule for the year, and I think we managed to pull all that off. We're in the green box now. How does Ignite 2024 impact the maturity model for Microsoft 365? We'll be talking about that in a moment. And we wanted to unveil next year's schedule, which is obviously not fully fleshed out, but we've got some great stuff coming early in the year. We've got a session in January about getting leadership buy-in. It's one thing to decide that you're an important linchpin in the organization and you want to affect change, and it's another to get your leadership to be on board with that and excited about it to support you in what you're trying to do with the maturity model. In February, we'll talk about how to run a maturity model workshop. We've got some fun ideas. Pia's going to be fleshing out. We were talking about it just before this call with a scenario that is pretty realistic, and we'll cover how you might run a maturity model given that scenario. In March, we will talk about the maturity model and AI agents. In April, we'll talk about a practical scenario on branding and how you think about upping your maturity level on branding within your Microsoft 365 estate. And in May, we'll talk about security culture. So join us in January, and maybe there will be some more sessions on here. If you have ideas about things you'd like to see us cover that are in the context of the maturity model, please let us know. Drop it into chat now or ping any one of us, and we'll kick it around and see if it makes sense for us to do.
And that's the point, isn't it, Mark? The first two topics, they were we had the survey last time. They were the top two things which people had identified. So we do listen to you.
Right. Yeah. We try. Thank you to all of you who joined in November. We had a robust crowd there, and as we do today, we're up over 50 people now. It's exciting. We've got a couple more links there. One is the invite for the series of meetings. There are also sharing is caring training sessions that happen not as frequently as they used to, but that link at the bottom will take you to the schedule for those. What are we working on? These are additional artifacts that we want to get into place, and hopefully we'll be doing that sometime in, we'll use Microsoft's approach sometime in fiscal 2025. How's that sound? A data analytics competency. We think that data and big data and analyzing your data makes sense as part of the maturity model, though we do have it sort of feathered into a lot of the 400 level competencies. We think that there needs to be a security competency, and then we're also doing a review of the management of content competency, because the tool sets always are changing, and we want to make sure that we're reflecting the current state of things. If any of you read through any of the articles that are part of the maturity model and you have suggestions, you can do a pull request, as we talked about. But we do want these things to go through regular review cycles. So if you read through something and say, well, that's not right, or that's not how it works anymore, please either do a pull request or let us know, and we'll make sure it gets in there. So on to our main event Simon's got his coughing out of the way. Let's go to the next slide and talk about how does Ignite 2024 impact the maturity model. And as soon as Teams listens to me, oh, heard me click twice. There we go. Who's going to take it away from here?
I think this is something I put together, so that's my fault. Yeah, there was a lot of announcements at Ignite, but we're looking at those which are sort of applicable to more to the maturity model, and so these are ones which I picked out on around sort of obviously around all the agent side. We've got the SharePoint agents, and we've got the low code of Copilot Studio and also the pro code, and I'll talk a bit about the impact of these on the maturity model a little bit later. But these are the ones which we sort of picked out, the improvement in the biz chat, so this is the Microsoft Teams chat experience, and the introduction of these first party agents coming in with the facilitator agent, which is bringing AI generative notes, project manager agent coming into planner, the interpreter agent allowing people in Teams to get language interpretation real time. And then kind of as a little nod to the data analytics, we've got the Microsoft Fabric announcements where there's improvements into sort of open mirroring and getting data from one data source to another, and how that's being used for grounding for the agent AI service as well. So yeah, we should have to use that when we look at the data analytics competency over next year. Did anybody else have any other key announcements they wanted to pick out at all?
Did they mention Copilot at all?
A couple of times, yeah. All right, next slide. I think we talk a bit more about Mr. Hudson. Was this your slide? This is around the retirement of 2 products, isn't it? And the impact then it might have on those competencies. So this was Viva Goals and Viva Goals, Viva Topics, and Viva Pulse as well are being retired. Viva Topics sort of February next year, and December 2025 Viva Goals and Viva Pulse are going. We were just sort of looking at those and thinking about how those may impact which competencies.
Essentially, we went through all the announcements that we could spot and gave some thought to which of the competencies were going to be heavily impacted by anything that came out of Ignite, and these 2 things that were being withdrawn definitely have some impact.
Yeah, that's
which is a shame. So we're going to have to update those somehow. But what's interesting is that the technologies can go away, but the principles that are embedded in the competency remain, pretty much unchanged. We just have to find different ways to achieve those tasks or those characteristics.
Yeah, I've been watching to see where some of these things are kind of emerging in other products. And so things like Viva Topics, when we think about actions in Copilot agents, I think we're going to start seeing some of the similar feature set. And I don't think it's the same thing, but there's some similar feature set that's going to show up in some of the action areas that exist in topics right now.
I thought Viva Topics is being deprecated.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. So
we invested a ton of time developing Viva Topics, and now, of course, we do it.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't very happy about that as an announcement, but but it's not our call. For some reason, Microsoft don't listen to us specifically. They have their own agenda, and we have to roll with it and figure out, well, how could we achieve the same sorts of things if we haven't got that particular piece of technology?
How many of you were using Viva Goals and/or Viva Topics to try to move up the maturity level for? I think Viva Goals probably, as we show, certainly touches the employee experience competency. Viva Topics multiple. Are you going to need to reconfigure your thinking based on those retirements? Got such a quiet crowd today.
Yeah, so if you guys are using Viva Goals or Viva Topics, just do a little thumbs up and that'll kind of give us an idea of how many people were already using that tool, that now you're not going to be using that tool. I think it kind of gives a visual illustration sometimes of how many things. See, look, all the little thumbs up. See, there's a lot of people who are using these tools. And I think, deprecating some of these tools, Microsoft, I don't know if they're missing the mark or not, but.
Yeah, we were certainly using Viva Goals and particularly integrating with Power BI. So, just being able to just track, revenue, number of leads, number of opportunities, kind of like the key metrics, and we're using it all over for measuring marketing, measuring, I found it really useful to be able to sort of see the trend analysis which Goals gave us with that integration with Power BI. But yeah, got to look for something else.
I think it's interesting, Simon, that, as you look for something else to fill that gap, it relates to other competencies within your organization to be able to find the other tools, right, to fill that gap.
Yeah.
Lots of overlap there.
Definitely.
All right.
Okay. So I think we've sort of talked a little bit about that. If we move on to the next slide, and then we can talk through. So coming back to the agents side, then there's some core competencies which I think which are impacted by the maturity model is impacted by, and sort of the thinking, and the first one is sort of business process. As we start to think about our business processes and the steps which are involved in those business processes, how can we look to create and implement an agent to be able to help us with a particular step? So it might be a sort of a sales cycle where we've got a lead coming in from a website, and that comes maybe into CRM like Dynamics, and maybe we can have an agent which is taking that process. First of all, we get quite a lot of spam, so maybe an agent which can then detect that spam agent, but we might get the agent to go and find some more information about that person, about that company, and bring that and as additional information into that CRM system. So how can we start to bring agents into business process? Still need to include the human in the loop, but evolving that. So that's the next one. There should be a few more competencies. I thought I'd sort the animations out, but obviously I haven't. The other one then is collaboration.
I'll just move forward so you won't get stuck.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the other one is collaboration. So you're seeing this with I don't know if people are using the Teams facilitator agent, where you've got this the AI is taking meeting notes for you, that you've got something, an agent supporting you in meetings, and you can start to see in Ignite, they talked, Fujitsu had an agent which was helping their research team in Microsoft Teams meetings. And I'd love to, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it, have a maturity model for M365 agent, so which was running on alongside you when you were doing a workshop and sort of helping make sure you've asked all the right questions, and maybe you getting a bit stuck, and it's helping you kind of unlock that and unblock those areas, and just making sure that people perform that requirements gathering process in a consistent and uniform way. So the other one then is communication. We're all using AI a bit more to help improve how we communicate. Maybe we're looking at how we're understanding our audience a bit better, which the types of personality traits people have. So maybe some people are more direct, and so you can use AI to kind of help understand the language which people like to hear. So whether they're more direct or need more detail, but also then just coming up with those communication words using AI. And then the last one then was customization and development. And we're certainly seeing it that we're using Copilot more to help us with development, but also using AI in our solutions when we're building things to kind of like an example would be trying to work out, say, oh, you're building a leave management app, a holiday app. How do you know which days are public holidays or weekends? And the AI is really good at that. And, we built a prompt, which probably took about half an hour to do. Now, if we were to develop that, it would be, maybe 3 or 4 days. And so it's looking at how you can use AI to kind of help improve or speed these things up. Anyway, there was a few things I was thinking about on impact on the maturity model.
It's amazing how much of that really just follows the natural SDLC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. It's just moving it on, a bit faster, isn't it? And then just flipping back to the Viva goals, the Viva Pulse, the Viva topics. I mean, something which we talked about when we were chatting last week, didn't we? We were sort of saying, well, how do we manage that product retirement? And as Galen was mentioning, it impacts on other competencies. But how do we manage it? How do we need to assess the impact that product going away is going to have on the organization? We then need to see, do we need to replace it? Is it do we just not do that thing anymore? And if we don't, if we need to replace it, then we need to plan for that replacement and then go through building the business case, getting the budgets, and then look at that implementing. And I just put these together yesterday. So love people's thoughts on, something we should introduce into the maturity model. Sounds like something mature organizations do, is manage product retirement.
And I believe that there are some thoughts that Michael Blumenthal has put into that service management practical scenario that talk about product retirement, because it's all well and good for Microsoft to announce something new and you all jump on it and everything just goes wonderfully. But then you also have to not plan for product. Well, you do have to plan for product retirement, but we shouldn't be biting our nails that everything's going to be canceled. It's when something is actually deprecated or replaced. How do we plan to move from it?
I think the big thing is, in the past, we've had so much longer from a cycle perspective to be able to plan for this and architect and change management plans in the past around software have been years. And I think with the ability in the cloud for everything to go so quick, that I think that all of the sudden we're realizing this change at lightning speed. Just like we're realizing change with them bringing in and making changes, we're also realizing how quickly that change is happening when they deprecate something as well in the cloud. And so I think from a change management perspective, it's taking all the things that we've done in the past and it's speeding them up.
No doubt. I'd say I still have clients on, Windows 2008 server, just saying, Windows 2000 or Windows 10 is still out there, right? So some technologies get long in the tooth, and so with SaaS products, cloud-based products, you have to be a little more nimble in terms of addressing product retirement.
Yeah, and so sort of thinking about how can we predict this, this process. So the product roadmap is a good indicator, isn't it? Like, what are these indicators for product health? Are we seeing a product being evolved, new features coming out? Are we seeing does the product align to what Microsoft is looking to do in this example? But whoever the vendor is, does it align with where they're going? Is the product team, are they quite visible? Are people moving around that product team? So those could be some indicators of how healthy a product is. But sometimes it does seem to come out of the left field, doesn't it? I don't know if any other thoughts on how you could predict product retirement or the health of it.
Yeah, as a long-time MVP, I feel like sometimes I'm trying to read the tea leaves, right? What are the subtle signals? Gee, that person used to be in charge of this thing and now they're not. I think we've definitely seen that over the last maybe year and a half or 2 years now, that Copilot is sucking a lot of the oxygen out of the room, and just the whole rollout of some level of AI across every product set is getting so much focus. And many of us have given Microsoft the feedback that, great, Ignite talked about so many different aspects of Copilot and Copilot this and Copilot that, and we're going to rename these Copilot products, and we're going to add Copilot to these other things, but they have to be thinking about what happens to the software that's running every day in everyone's tenant. So I think that they're getting that message. And I think while we are definitely in the age of Copilot, and before that it was sort of the age of Teams, Microsoft has liked to say over the last maybe 8 or 10 years, this is the year of something. I think now we're in the age of Copilot. I don't think it's a year. And so I guess one of the questions that I would ask everyone on the call is, how are you thinking about this Copilot juggernaut within your organizations? Are you doing pilots? Are you looking at it as a way to increase your maturity on some competencies? What's your take on that? I mean, other than it's expensive and we're not quite sure how to do it, are there some successful impacts on some of your maturity so far? Feel free to come off mute and answer aloud.
Yeah, if you guys want to post in chat.
Hey, Mark. We're starting to offer Copilot assistance to our clients, and so what we're finding is it goes hand in hand with data governance. I've actually started putting together a survey, and I'm trying to lead them into data governance. How organized is your data? How, what kind of permission structures do you need? Data loss prevention policies, labels, things like that. And I think it just goes hand in hand. And a lot of organizations, the feedback I'm seeing and hearing is that they're scared of that. They're scared of people finding the security by obscurity stuff. And I think that's keeping a lot of organizations from using Copilot. We're pushing pilots, just do a couple of people, just get used to it. A lot of times I'm noticing the IT person will buy a license for themselves so that they tinker around with it. And I think training is going to be key. I'm putting together a whole training, whole training schedule for clients who want training in the different apps as well as general Copilot and using Microsoft's resources. They've been fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that Copilot is highlighting the levels of the lower levels of maturity in organizations that didn't realize they were at lower levels.
Big time.
None of this is none of the things that Copilot is pointing out didn't exist before. Your permissions are not working the way you expect. You have content spread across sites where you didn't realize, all of that sort of stuff. That was the case already. What a lot of what Copilot is highlighting is now people are actually going to see that in Copilot results, which is what they would have seen in search results, but they may not have ever clicked on. So it's reiterating the fact that management of content is a critical competency in every organization. Collaboration and communication are critical competencies in every organization, because if you do those well, Copilot will be providing better results. Same thing with business process. I mean, it's clear that Copilot is not. I look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get your digital estate more in shape because of the impetus of Copilot. A lot of executives think, oh, we've got to jump on AI. There's a lot of push to try these tools out. Little recommendation of mine: don't have IT be the only people with those trial licenses. Let some real people in your organization use them.
What always happens, Mark, is IT's got to take a look at the technology touches, because they got to be able to answer the questions to the bean counters, because you got to make that show that it's not a cost center, it's actually a savings. I just tell people, look, one meeting recap pays for the license for the month. I mean, the amount of time it takes you as a PM to go through and recap a meeting and write your notes and your actions, you're saving the license cost just with that one meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you have to do the math, right?
Yeah.
You have to multiply that license cost across a lot more people.
Again, I think
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the challenge right now is, it'd be great to have the entire organization with Copilot, but I think the practicality, because of the cost right now, is that you're going to have to target certain people. Certain jobs, functions are going to get the most out of Copilot, and that's how you're going to get your return on investment. And then, Mike, I asked this question in the chat: at what point in time, when we've seen this, Microsoft takes these premium features and they start to incorporate it with the regular license. We saw that with Fast Search back in 2013, and so at what point in time is Microsoft going to incorporate that with the license? And how many customers know that? They've dealt with that, they've lived that, and they're just waiting for it to be incorporated with the regular license. And when that happens, that's going to be a huge problem for the maturity.
It does go the other way sometimes as well. Sometimes, they open up a gateway drug, get us hooked, and then introduce a charge against it. So, I mean,
one of my bosses calls it marketecture.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, the other thing to your point about, the time savings, I completely agree with it. I had some column formatting to do the other day, and it would have taken me half a day to wrangle the JSON in SharePoint, because I'm rubbish at JSON, and Copilot nailed it in 7 minutes. 7 minutes to complete the entire thing. It's brilliant. The question is, was I able to turn that, sort of half a day of saved time into something else productive, or did I just twag off for the rest of the day? And that's a legitimate question. The finance directors only get excited if they can demonstrate that that you can go and use that time to generate some more profitability somewhere.
And I think also the important thing is that we don't talk about Copilot and AI as an IT cost. It is it's business development. It comes from a different cell in the Excel spreadsheet budget. This is not having Word so I can write things. Because it really speeds up everything, and we can fact check things faster and do so many better things. Like now I start everything with an AI. I don't think on my own. I throw out a question or a concept or something to an AI that pulls it together a little bit better. But the important thing is now it's early days. It's so early days. But the difference is those companies that invest in this business opportunity, which is in business development, in 2-3 years, those who didn't it will be game over. It's like electricity. We have it everywhere. We have to have it everywhere. Everyone is not an electrician. Everyone will not be like a computer AI person, but everyone will be using AI.
So,
I think that speaks to Deb and Mark's comments earlier that training and enablement is key. I think Deb was saying how IT wants to or feels compelled to be able to answer everyone's question. I think it's more ensuring that everybody can use AI correctly, that they understand how to prompt, and that there's a significant effort around teaching people the best methods to prompt AI to get the results that they need, so that they can get the JSON they require in 7 minutes versus 3 hours, right? And that really is an area that I think is not transformation. It's a new way of working and a new way of thinking and interacting with AI in our day-to-day experience to realize those gains you're describing, Pia.
Yeah. And also when we talk to leadership about this, it's not like, oh, we're going to save money and not give Copilot to everyone. Like, no, then they're just going to use some public tools that you don't have to pay for, and all of your data will be out there somewhere. So not paying for it is giving your stuff away and you don't know about it.
Shadow AI.
Yeah. So, there's a risk element to it as well.
It's the same struggle we had. And I don't want to say how many years ago, because then that talks about how old I am. But when content management kind of came on the scene, And people, they were like, well, are we going to spend all this money on something like SharePoint to manage our content and put access restrictions around our content, as people were generating all of these artifacts? And the companies that were like, no, we don't want to spend money on that, they can just put it in their file folders, those people went out and they got things like Dropbox, and they got things like Box, and they put their stuff in other places. And we think about people storing content in social media platforms or free platforms or personal platforms, and then I would get called into places at an architecture level to say, why is all of our stuff not internal? Why don't we own our own data and our own content? And it's because they did not create the opportunity for their users to be able to do it in an easy and meaningful way and be able to access control it. And I think we're seeing the same exact conversation come around AI and things like Copilot, because people want to have those tools. They want to be successful. They want to be better. They want to be faster. And either companies can invest in their people and get them the tools they need to be successful and keep that data in-house, or they can, to your point, let them go use the tools that are out there and give that content and data away, which is obviously not what they want to do. But I think it's a short-sightedness of immature organizations.
Yeah, and it's also very important to remember legal will never catch up. So we cannot wait for legal, because the last thing that they did against us in IT was that we have to accept cookies everywhere. I mean, do you feel safe? Do you feel like your personal data is safe because you're agreeing to cookies 27,000 times a day? No. I don't even know who has my data or why, what they're doing with it. I'm just trying to live my life, which is a lot on the internet. So if you're giving your stuff away because you're cheap, there's that. You really have to think about it. Like, no, people will do it anyways. And also to put into it, it's like, okay, Copilot is probably not the best AI out there right now. But Copilot will win, because Copilot has access to our email, our documents, our intranet, our conversations. No one will ever hand over the reins to give that data to any other model. No one will do that. So for every company that has Microsoft 365, Copilot is the only way forward.
There are other ways to bring other AI models into Microsoft 365, but they take more work. If you do that, there's some interesting experiments out there or actual realities out there where people are using other AI engines in solutions that they're building, but it does take that customization and development, which happens to be right on the screen in front of us.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mark. It's not a walled garden. There's certainly, when you enter the Azure space, there's plenty of other models and tools available, and many of them run natively on Azure. But so Microsoft doesn't care as long as they're making the money from it, but they certainly do have a strategy of making it as easy as possible to integrate within their tool set. So it's not a walled garden, but it's very attractive to stay inside the boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Yeah, that's a lot of models, isn't it?
And how many are there now?
It's only some.
And it's only going to exponentially grow, just like connectors in the Power Platform space, or apps, or integration points. Like, I think we're just beginning to see the very, very, very early grouping of this, and I think it's just going to exponentially explode over the next few years in terms of opportunity. So I think, to your point, I think there absolutely are going to be options of things that people can bring in. Everything. Copilot is the first and the inside model. There is the Azure AI stuff that will be able to work within your ecosystem, and then there's going to be the third parties that are going to create opportunities for things to work with the things you already use. And I think that is going to be explosive over the next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, like Copilot is going to win for Copilot in in Outlook, in SharePoint. Like when you're using the standard stuff in SharePoint that we all use to collaborate in our documents, then what we do on top of that for our USP in the business that we're doing, that's probably going to be something else. But for our productivity, just to be clear, I'm not going to close the door on outside AIs. Sorry, AI gods. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, they are listening.
They are listening.
I think, well, I was just going to say, from a maturity model perspective, when we start thinking about all of this change, right? Because maturity model and change management definitely go hand in hand in terms of as things change, you can learn to mature, you can learn to adapt, you can learn to grow with those changes. And I think, we talk about mature organizations and mature practices being able to be adaptive to change and being able to quickly respond to change. And so, even in Six Sigma and lean methodologies, the faster you can get rid of something that doesn't work, the faster you can move to something that does work. And I think we are seeing all these organizations around the world we're going to see how mature they are, right? How quickly can they adapt? How quickly can they change? How quickly can they communicate? And I think the lesson learned from all of this at a maturity level is if you have not figured out how to keep up from all these practices and all these competencies, how to keep up quickly in this space, then I think you're going to be left behind. And it's a really good reminder to grow the maturity competency around change management and communication, because right now that's going to be the one that I think is going to matter the most.
So just going back to that, I mean, one of the guiding principles of the way that we've built the maturity model is it's not grounded in any particular technology. We're using the technology capabilities as they emerge to go, oh, that's interesting. That means we can now do this thing in our organization, not because of the technology, but often because we haven't thought to do that thing before. So when the technology goes away or changes or whatever, the thing that we can now do doesn't go away with it. We just go, now we know that we want to do that. We want to be able to run agents inside our content libraries. We go, okay, so if Copilot doesn't do it, we'll find something else. If Viva Goals has gone away, we'll bring in a tool that lets us achieve that same end game. Because the business competencies are informed by, but not reliant on the technologies.
Yeah. And that's also something that I say to my customers, you're still going to do the same thing. If you're in sales, you're going to be contacting people, listening to their pains, selling them something that they want. We're just going to do it differently. We don't use fax anymore. We use Teams.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I just have one last thought on that. I was going to say, if your business process is based around a tool, this is where you see pain, as opposed to if your business process is based, or if your tool is based on a business process, right? Just to kind of close out what you guys are saying and summarizing in my own head is, if you're based around a tool, you will have pain. If your tool is based around a business process, you will be able to adapt, is kind of what I hear you guys saying. Sorry, Mark.
No, that's all
and
right.
Sharon, that's what I tell our clients a lot of times. It's like crawl, walk, run. Let's figure out, you've got this process that Jane does where people send her an email and they send her a form. Well, let's figure out how to make that into a process. We can automate that using SharePoint, so you can get used to having this process, determine what you need and don't need, and then you can start to look for something off the shelf when you need to go bigger.
Yep.
And that's what I love about these tools, because it can help an organization get from that person-based process, system-based process, to something off the shelf.
What I was going to say before, I think we were all falling into Microsoft's trap in a sense, and that we're, what happened at Ignite? Well, it was Copilot. And the reason for that is that's what it was. Were there other things at Ignite that anyone heard about or was interested in and have an impact on your view of the maturity model? Anyone have anything that's not AI based? Anything that is on different topics? I believe there were some announcements around infrastructure and administrative tools. Anybody zero in on any of those?
There were certainly some databasey things, but Simon D's
Yeah.
probably the man on point for that.
Yeah, I'm
I think
trying to wrap my head around when to use what. Fabric versus, of course, SQL or old standby or lists, versus the Dataverse. Still trying to wrap my head around all that.
I know there was some announcements. There's quite a few announcements around translation services, which I think is really interesting from an accessibility perspective. And yes, there's some AI in there too, but the idea that we are going to be able to get on any meeting globally and people will be able to see, read, and hear in the language of their choice eventually, I think is a really, really cool idea. And I know there was a lot of announcements around translation services that go everything from being able to do it all the way to agents that will be able to literally all talk, and then the AI translator will voice that so that you can essentially listen to it in my voice in your native language and be able to understand me organically speak this thing, but you understand it comprehensively, which I think is going to change the game in the way that we do things, because so many people, especially people who English is not their first language, are coming in and they are using English because it's so global in technology, but I think they miss certain things that they could have probably done better had they spoken in their own native language. And so I think the idea that they can use their native language to communicate and to share their ideas, but then I can consume it in mine, I think is going to change the game in terms of the way that we communicate across technology.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive add-on for being able to communicate around the world in different languages. I mean, if Pia could be listening to me talking in Swedish in my voice, which would be just strange. And
that would be amazing.
It would be easier for her, though her English is better than mine. So we continue to see some of the announcements helping to break down in effect, walls around the globe. Globalism is not going to go away. We work with people all around the world. If you look at the core team on this project, you can see that it doesn't matter where you are anymore if you want to participate in something.
I wasn't on Ignite, but I was at ESPC, and they were talking about SharePoint Advanced Management, that now it's free until July 2025. I'm still trying to get into it. I have a tenant with just so few users, so they're probably ignoring me. But there's a lot of stuff there that is not AI, but that was really cool that was coming. Did they talk about that on Ignite?
They did, and I thought that part of that announcement was that if you have Copilot licenses, and it doesn't matter how many, then SAM is free. I didn't think that there was an end date. Is that a different announcement?
I think, no, it was like SAM is free until July 2025, and it will be free with Copilot.
Right, and I think the free with Copilot is, at least for now, perpetual until somebody decides to change their mind about that. So licensing changes are also fun to try and keep track of, and that's really impossible. So I think that the good part there is they realize that everyone is struggling with whether Copilot is valid and safe and all that stuff, and so they're giving the tools to do some of that analysis. Though I think you can go a lot deeper that are in SAM. That's cool.
From a modern work perspective, I think the other big things that I saw were around page management. So we think about, there's things like SharePoint flexibility, or flexibility in SharePoint pages. So there's more flexibility coming in SharePoint pages. There's a lot of stuff that's coming in Loop that is kind of expanding the abilities that you're going to have in Loop. Some of the stuff in OneNote and Whiteboard at the page level, you're going to be able to do some more things around that. And then Copilot pages, which I start talking about Copilot pages and people are like, okay, we're done. But it's the idea that you're able to take the information that's on a page, whether you're displaying something in a meeting or you're displaying it on an intranet or you're working with it in front of people, and being able to have more flexibility, adaptability, and grounding on the content that's on the page. I think that from a modern work perspective is going to change the game in the way that we manage and work with content, because right now everything's kind of so flat and two-dimensional. And then when we speak of three-dimensional, like getting into things that have more depth and more ability to work with those pieces and parts and move them throughout the ecosystem. And I know I like new innovative stuff, and to a lot of people that's really scary and it's a lot of change, but I think it's going to bring a lot of improvement and innovation into the way that we work every day.
That's a really good point, Sharon. One of my customers, one of the things they're saying is, could we describe, have a document which explained our process, and could we create a diagram of that? And I think with Copilot Pages and that Mermaid JS, you can describe a diagram and it will draw it out. I think it's really, really cool stuff. Yeah.
Well, we are coming up on the top of the hour, so we'll go through this little closing slide here. So thanks for joining us. I think that I've enjoyed this conversation. I hope the other 47 of you who are still here did as well. We'll be meeting next on January 21st, when we'll talk about getting leadership buy-in, specifically for the maturity model efforts that you might have. But of course, getting leadership buy-in is good for just about anything. If you want to join these sessions on a regular basis, please do use that invitation link. And there are some links to the YouTube videos and the slide decks at the bottom too. We'll take the slide deck from this session and drop it into that. There's a folder where all of the historical slides are, and the videos are all on YouTube. So any closing thoughts?
Have a lovely holiday and break, and
happy
Indeed.
holidays.
enjoy the rest.
Indeed. Hopefully we'll all have some nice family time or quiet time, individual time, whatever time it is that you want between now and the time when we meet in January.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See you next year.
Sounds good. Cheers, everybody.
See you in 2025.
All right, thanks, folks.
Cheers.
Happy
Thanks
holidays.
for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.